Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Growing This Home. Today I'm going to be talking all about miscarriages and how to care for people who have had them in your life or if you have had them yourself. For some reason, the topic of miscarriage is one that we don't talk about enough, and yet it's quite common actually. So anyway, I just wanted to shed some light and share some things.
Too many days in the darkness without a glimpse of the light. Running tired and broken and scared, but I swear I'll never give up the fight. I see you broken and beat, head pulled down over your eyes. Every part of you wants to surrender, but darling, you were meant to survive.
Okay, so first off, I wanted to say that if you have experienced a miscarriage yourself or are going through one right now, I am so sorry. It is really a hard road to walk, just because, first of all, you just feel so alone and you probably feel like it's maybe your fault, which is not the case at all. I had 2 miscarriages myself. My first pregnancy, I was 20 years old, literally brand new. We married like, I think 3 months into marriage when we found out we were pregnant, and I was so excited. I shared the news with every single person around me, like, I'm pregnant, I'm pregnant. And at 10.5 weeks, I miscarried. And I was scheduled for my prenatal, my first prenatal, like literally, I think I miscarried on like a Friday, and my appointment was scheduled for Monday. So we don't know how, like, if the baby ever had a heartbeat. We don't know at what point the baby had died. But when I miscarried, I was so young. And like I said, you know, newly into marriage, I had no idea what was actually happening. I can remember like cramping all day and feeling like really icky, but I was like, oh man, this is really strange. And then once I started bleeding, I was in the bathroom and I thought, man, I don't think that this is good. Like, I think something's wrong. And I called my mom, and she was like helping me through it, but she had never had a miscarriage either. And so I honestly didn't know what was happening. Nolan had 0 clue. So he was just like, I was like, Nolan, I need you to like go to the car and get my clothes. We had been traveling, and so we were about to go stay with his parents, so I had a whole bag of clothes in the car. I was like, I need some new clothes, I'm like bleeding everywhere. And so he went and got them for me, and he's like, okay, are you good? Like, you know, he just didn't know, and I didn't know either. So eventually my mom was like, you need to go to the hospital right now. And we were in a really small town, so we went to the emergency room, and they didn't even have like an ultrasound machine. And so they just used like the little Doppler thing, and they're like, I'm so sorry, you miscarried your baby. That was kind of the first time that I had ever heard that term. And they gave me this little book called I'll Hold You in Heaven, and they literally just kind of left us alone in the room to cry. Which is a whole other story. And then my second pregnancy, I miscarried at 8.5 weeks. That one I kind of expected was going to happen. I was having a lot of cramping and spotting leading up to the miscarriage. I had tried to tell my doctors, and they didn't really believe me, which again is a whole nother topic about advocacy for yourself. So I have walked that road, and it is very hard to navigate, and it's a really weird feeling to navigate this, you know, loss, because you're crying and feeling sad and alone, and you're hurting and all these things over a baby that you never even knew, you never got to hold, you probably haven't even named yet. So yeah, it's a big topic. Okay, sorry, I had to change angles after sitting on my knees for so long. I was like losing circulation. Okay, so I'm gonna put below the time prints. So if you're experiencing a miscarriage, this next section's for you. And if you want to know more about how to care for a miscarried friend or family member, I'll put the timestamp of what you can jump ahead to if you want to. Okay, so if you are experiencing miscarriage or recently experienced a miscarriage, there's several things that you should be doing. Getting lots of rest, making sure that your diet is, you know, right up there, you're eating healthy, you're still taking all of your prenatals. If you haven't already, obviously you need to go see your doctor. You want to keep in contact with your doctor, let them know all about your bleeding, when you are like transitioning into spotting, when you end, all the things. That way they just can better like care for you. If you are currently miscarrying right now, there's a chance that you might be able to get some blood work still done, and they might be able to work through that. For me, my second miscarriage, kind of because I knew what was going to happen, it was actually the day I miscarried. Right before I miscarried, I went into my doctor's, they did an ultrasound, and they also did blood work, which I had to really fight for, which is super frustrating, which is why I had to switch doctors. But they were able to look at my progesterone levels and say like, oh, you don't have enough progesterone, so you're gonna continue to miscarry your babies. They told me they were not going to test until after my third miscarriage, which was super frustrating. So that's why I kind of had to advocate for myself. Also, now is a really good time to be journaling. Like I said, resting, give yourself lots of grace. You just lost a baby and it's really difficult to process. Some things that you can do would be to, you know, have like a little memorial service, planting flowers or a tree in your yard or somewhere that you drive by frequently. It's a great way to remember your baby. You can, you know, if you've already started to purchase stuff, make like a little shadow box or like a little storage box type thing. There's also some really great resources. They were not around when I miscarried, but now that I've seen them, I'll link it below, but there's like this really beautiful journal. There's actually a few, so I'll link a couple of them down so you guys can pick which ones you want. But journal it all. Journal all your feelings, journal everything that you want to remember while you were pregnant. And then journal also the really hard stuff. That just is like a huge amount of therapy. Also, like join a support group or a grief group or talk to other moms who have had miscarriages. The best thing that you can do is to make sure that you don't feel alone. That is a huge lie. You are not broken. Miscarriages are very common. I think it's, I can't remember if it's 1 in 4 or 1 in 8. I think it's 1 in 4. 1 in 4 pregnancies end in miscarriage. That is a huge number of pregnancies, and a lot of people just don't talk about it, and a lot of people are very quiet about it. But the thing is that then that can keep you feeling isolated and like it's you that's the problem, and obviously that's not the case. So make sure you're doing all of that. And also, if your spouse is not, I don't know, handling things the way you'd expect, just remember that they're also grieving in their own way. Men tend to not show it as much as the women do. It might feel like they've kind of like shut off, they've become kind of cold, they've moved on, whatever, and that's really not the case. They're really just handling it. For a long time, I felt that way with Nolan, and for months I felt so alone, like I was the only one grieving our losses. And the reality is that I later found out, I think like a year after my first miscarriage, Nolan finally broke down and was crying and was really upset about it. And it was so like out of place for me because I felt like I had already grieved the loss and had not moved on, it's not the correct term, but like had moved forward. And so here he is processing this, and it had been a year. And I'm like, what is going on? And I didn't realize that through that time, he felt the need to like be strong for me and to help carry me he wasn't doing obviously a great job at the communication part of that, because I felt like he had kind of holed up. But we later learned, like, okay, he was still really sad and processing all of it, but had just waited to process until I had my space, and he felt like he needed to be strong the whole time. So that's what your spouse is doing right now. I would just maybe try to talk to them about it, pry it out of them potentially if you need to, or just give them the space. Everybody grieves their own way, but your spouse is most likely grieving alongside you, like I said, in their own way. Okay, so if you have a family member or friend who has recently miscarried, first, please do never, ever, ever say things like, oh, all in God's timing, or maybe it was for the best, or maybe there was something wrong with your baby and this is just what happened, or God has a plan for you, or whatever other sweet, beautiful remark that you feel like you want to say to them. Please just don't. The best thing you can say is, I'm so sorry. I don't understand your pain, but I'm here for you. Or I'm here for whatever you need. I'm here to be a shoulder. You know, offer yourself or whatever you can. How can I help? Can I cook you meals? Can I help you with the dishes? Can I help you with laundry? You know, things like that. Don't try to diminish their pregnancy or diminish their baby. And if their baby has already been named and already has a gender, it's okay to talk about their baby, because you want them to feel like you loved their baby also. Their baby was taken away from them too soon, you know, it died. And if you knew about it, like, you're one of the only people that ever knew their child existed. It is really hard to go out in public and people be like, oh, if it's their first or your second baby or whatever, then being like, oh, are you ever gonna plan to have kids? Like, do you guys want kids? And then it stinks because you're like, yeah, I just miscarried mine actually, but yeah, I do want kids. Or, you know, you don't say that to people. You just like nod and smile like, yeah, one day. Because what are you gonna say? You're gonna bring up a really sad topic? No. So just be joyful, remember their baby, talk about them, and it's okay to like cry alongside them, or not cry, but to let them cry, because that's the best way to help remember their baby. Bringing care packages to them. If they're in the hospital, obviously there's things that you can bring, but if they're at home, you know, I am always a huge fan of like cozy things. You could purchase any of the journals that I've listed below, blankets, you know, tea, things that will just like, you know, comfort items. Also, like I said, cleaning or offering to pick up food, starting meal trains with friends, that's a huge thing. Also, if they decide to throw a memorial for their baby, you know, be there with them to celebrate that if they want you to. Maybe they want to do it privately, but if they're open to having family and friends, maybe see if you can get a few friends together to come, you know, release balloons, or I'm not personally a huge fan of that, but some people like that, releasing balloons or planting trees or doing whatever, you know, going by that tree occasionally and leaving like a little love note on it or something. That will just help keep the memory of their child alive, just like a gravesite, except they don't have one. So all of these things, it's such a huge topic, and it's a very sad, painful topic, but something that definitely needs to be talked about. There are some really beautiful prayers for miscarriages as well. I think almost every prayer book I've looked at has prayers for miscarriages, but specifically, obviously, the Ascetic Lives of Mothers prayer book by Annalisa Boyd, that has some beautiful prayers in it, and also some prayers for like troubled pregnancy and whatnot. If you have any more ideas, drop them below. Again, like, I'm always open about a lot of the things in my life. If you want to talk more about your miscarriage, or you just need a shoulder to cry on, or anything like that, I'm definitely here for you. As always, the best way to contact me is to head over to Instagram on my Growing This Home account. If not, I will try to check the messages here. But I love you guys, and I'm sorry this is such a sad topic, but I hope that it helps. And anyway, until next time, make sure to like, subscribe, do all of the wonderful things, and I will see you next time. Bye.